I don't want to drink pop anymore, and if you're surrounded by people that drink pop, they ain't gonna like that, right? That's okay. Don't drink the pop and love them anyways. You should put a plan in place and take care of that. If something isn't working as you want it to, you need to change it. Anytime you want to change something, you got to ask yourself who you want to be. Get a picture of that in your head and you start to get that clear, and it'll start to change or help you change your behaviors. Do not expect to start something and do it perfectly. Nothing left to do but to do it. What's going on out there? Here we go. Showtime, number 19. Unreal. Time keeps going. So that's how it works. Put a plan in place, and then you just keep doing it, and then time goes by, and then things are happening. So episode 19, how to build a nutrition plan. We're doing it. We're doing it, Mom. We're doing it. Goal of this episode is to help you think about nutrition as a tool to support your fitness goals, health, and productivity. Actually, I don't know if that is the goal of this podcast. The goal of this podcast is to help you think about where to start with nutrition, where you are with nutrition, and maybe even build a little bit of a plan off of this, although I don't think it'll be super effective at that. So I am semi-planning on doing a short, I don't know how long it would take, 10 minutes just to have a strict instructional video of, hey, do this, pause, then you do it, and then you start again, and then you do the next step. I think that could be helpful. But this will kind of outline that. You'll get a gist of what that might be. And if we do that or not, I don't know. But you will definitely get, if you're already into nutrition and you're trying, you'll definitely get some ideas out of this. If you're not at all, you'll get a picture of what you would need to do, a good starting place. We're going to cover the basics of nutrition from a practical perspective, not like what it is and what it's doing. So I don't know why I said to help us think about nutrition as a tool to support our fitness goals, health, and productivity, because that's not what it is. But you know what? That's okay. Another goal of this episode is to outline the 3 major approaches. That is definitely a goal of this episode, and have some fun. Thank God for that. I'm getting better at not getting upset about this thing and having to start over, because that is no fun for anybody. It's no fun for me. You have no idea. Outline of topics for today, guys. We've got updates. Before we get started, cover some stuff there. My nutrition plan. The 3 approaches. And some final thoughts. Hope you guys are having a good life out there. These updates are so lame. Let's just be honest. It does help me loosen it up a little bit, though. Weather is cold, per usual. It's going to be this way for another 2 months. I don't know if anything's going to change there. Maybe it'll get like rainy and sunny and then rainy again. I don't know. It is cold. It's not super cold, though. It's not too bad, actually. Subscriber update. Email 60. YouTube 85. So we jumped 1 there. 84 to 85. Making some changes on the YouTube front again. Because if something isn't working as you want it to, you need to change it. That's something I've learned. Spotify went from 20 to 21 because I realized I wasn't following my own podcast. So I finally did that, and now we're at 21. So that doesn't really count, but it's funny. Apple sits at 21. Oh, a little update on the sign. Last week, Itchy Nose held up a little picture of this kind of design I had put together and had it sent to a sign company out of Florida. I can't think of their name exactly, SVZ Designs or something like that. And it showed up today, but it showed up after I had left the gym. So it's sitting at the gym right now, and I wasn't going back. It's going to look, I hope it's going to look pretty cool. I think it looks pretty cool. And we're going to put it up, right over my shoulder here if you're looking on the YouTubes or the Spotify. Maybe Nathan can throw an arrow right there. Got some lights. It's got my own personal design, which, I can design some stuff kind of. Reminder, please submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. I want. All right, let's get into this. But this is before we get into it. That's what this is called. Before we get started, all right? Some episodes I need to like kind of say some things that are going to, kind of permeate the entire podcast. And I like to do that first, So that's what this is. Before we get started, just like we started the other one about exercise, you're going to have to ask yourself the same question. Anytime you want to change something, you got to ask yourself who you want to be, and who you want to be, you get a picture of that in your head and you start to get that clear, and it'll start to change or help you change your behaviors. So I'm assuming if you're following and listening to this podcast that you want to be a healthy person, right? You want to live a healthy lifestyle, or you already are and you're trying to better understand that. You're trying to, find some places that you can make some improvements, because that's really what it is. Once you get started, it's just this continual improvement thing, just making small changes over time that add up. And so if you're going to ask yourself who you want to be, what you don't want to do, if we're talking about nutrition, is say and think like we used to think in the 90s, I'm going to start a diet, and a diet was this temporary thing that you needed to do to lose weight. We don't really think like that anymore. We've evolved our thinking. Consciousness has evolved, and it's turned into now people don't just want to lose weight and being at a certain weight is healthy. People actually want to take care of their body, and that's the thing you do as a practice. That's the thing you do throughout your life, right? Because you always got your body, unless you're not here, and then you don't have a body anymore and you don't have to do that. But while you're here, you have a body, and you need to do that. So who do you want to be? And when it comes to nutrition, you just don't put any time frames on it, right? This is a temporary change that I'm making. I want to be this quote unquote healthy person. Healthy people do two things. They exercise 4+ days a week, and they cook, they prepare, they shop and cook for their own food. They cook and prepare their own foods. They eat their own foods, or they use Factor or something. And so getting those two things in place, bam, no time frames on your nutrition, bam, you're making a change that you intend on changing throughout your life. And we'll talk about how that works, but you're trying to become a different person. Also, when you do that, well, your friends and family might not like it. As weird as that sounds. What do I have on here? Your friends and family ain't going to like is what I have on here. The reason that is that, because I've been, but I started like eating right and all that stuff. Started working when I was 15 and started eating right when I was 21. And so that's like 35 years now. And so the thing people always said back then in the 90s was health freak, oh, he's a health freak, which is negative, but whatever. But people respond that way because, and this is going to be a little bit harsh, if someone knows there's something they should be doing and they're not doing it, and then you do it, well, it shines a light on the fact that they're not doing it when they know they should. Now, if they don't have any conscience about it, they're not worried about it at all, they'll be happy for you. But if you get a negative response, that's the only reason why they're responding that way. Not the only reason, but that is the main reason why people are going to respond that way. And that's okay. Love them anyways, right? It's not, you don't have to get into some arguing about it. You don't have to defend yourself, right? If you say, hey, you know what? I'm looking to, hey, I don't want to drink pop anymore, and if you're surrounded by people that drink pop, they ain't going to like that, right? And so that's okay. Don't drink the pop and love them anyways. Next thing I want to talk about before we get started, there's 3 approaches to nutrition, and we're going to break those 3 things down, but I wanted to outline them here super quick. Basically, on or off. We're going to talk about that. That's kind of the beginner level. You've got controlling your food environment, which is the intermediate level. Then you got counting macros, which there's 2 approaches to that. There's an intermediate and an advanced level for that. And from my perspective, and I've been thinking about, like I said, I've been thinking about nutrition since I was 21. I guess if you don't hold that doesn't help you at all. So that is 28 years I've been thinking about, and I've done multiple diets, pretty much done them all. I was born into the 90s. Well, I was born into the 70s. I was born in 75. But I came through the 90s phase when everybody was like low fat is the answer to health and longevity and fitness. So I did the low fat. I've done gluten-free. I've done paleo. I was paleo for like 4 years straight. I've done an SCD diet. I've counted macros. I've not counted macros. I've done no vegetables. I've done all kinds of different approaches to nutrition. Plus, I've worked with people with nutrition over 20 years. From my perspective, there's really only 3 approaches to changing your nutrition. And we will go into those 3 and break them down in a little bit of detail today. What else I got here? Diet's old thing geared toward weight loss. Yep, kind of mentioned that. I mean, the whole, I don't know if it was born out of the 90s, but people started from what I can remember, people started thinking about diet as a temporary thing that you were going to do because you were 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds overweight, and you needed to go on a diet to lose that weight, and then you came off of your diet. And that's been a concept of diet for a long time. And from my perspective, and from what I've seen being in the industry now for over these years, is that's changed. Like, people don't necessarily think of it that way anymore. I mean, people still do, but there's been a shift towards more diet encompassing, or that word meaning nutrition. And what is my diet? How do I eat? I guess that's it. What is my diet? How do I eat? What is the nutrition that I take in? And so, which is great, because that's how we really want to look at it. We don't want to think about just not paying any attention and then paying attention because we need to lose weight and then going back to not paying attention. You should pay attention. You should put a plan in place and take care of that. Also, pick a starting point that matches your skill level. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself on that. All right. So here we go. We're going to cover those 3 things. But before we do that, as I mentioned in the topics, we're going to talk about my nutrition plan. And one, because that's fun. People like to hear that stuff. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I do too. Like, if I'm listening to Peter Attia or Huberman, I kind of want to hear what they do. I don't know why. But it's just interesting to people. So I'm not one to sit and talk about myself, but I figured it'd be interesting to talk about a nutrition plan and how I approach it. And you guys might be able to get some stuff out of that. Little drink here. All right. So here we go. My nutrition plan. Before I mention this, you got to know that I didn't come out the womb Mr. Fitness. I wasn't just born and I've always just done everything right my whole life and I've just taken care of my body and, it's not like that. When I was, how old was I? I think I was 19. I can remember when I first started my entrance into nutrition. And when I was 19, I was eating fast food twice a day. That was how I ate. I didn't think about nutrition. I started to understand, actually my earliest memory of nutrition or having any consciousness around it was in high school. And I remember I would go to the vending machine to go get a Snickers, go figure because I eat them today, a Snickers, because a Snickers had 32 grams of carbs in it. And at the time, remember, fat was bad and carbs were good. And so, hey, man, that's got some carbs. That's got some energy. I'm going to go get me a Snickers. I'm good to go. And that is really my first memory of thinking about and trying to take a proactive approach to what I was eating. Prior to that, and I was just get my foot in the door a little bit. I still, like I said, when I was 19, I was eating fast food twice a day. That's, I ate McDonald's, I ate Taco Bell, and there was a Rally's near my place. I'd also get me some Hot Now, if you remember those guys. But I knew that I needed to change that. I knew that fast food wasn't great. And so I would quit. And then I would eat it again. And then I would quit. And then I would eat it again. And it was a battle, And that went on for years, really. Even when I was still eating healthy, I would still maybe stop and get the whatever, right? I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking about it with somebody. I don't think I've had, and this isn't like a self-brag. This just is what it is, okay? It's just information. But I don't think I've had fast food since 2007 or 8. Something like that. Somewhere in that ballpark. Okay, so here we go. And I say all that to say, you're going to start something, and you're going to say, I'm going to do this, and then you're going to do it, but you're not going to do it perfect, and then you're going to have to start again, and you're not going to do it perfect, you have to start again. And that's just part of the process. Do not expect to start something and do it perfectly. You won't. But when you quote unquote mess up, that doesn't change the fact that you still need to get this thing straightened out, right? So you just start again, and you start again, and you start again. All right, so what's my nutrition look like today? So I know a lot of people, they'll do their food prep, and I food prep, but I don't do it in a 4-hour slog on a Sunday. For me, I don't want to do nothing on Sunday. I like one day a week, which is Sunday, and I don't do anything that I don't want to do. And so I'm not going to spend my day 4 hours on a Sunday cooking. So my cooking days are Mondays and Thursdays. So twice a week, I'm going to intentionally cook. I cook up 6 meals on a Monday, and then I cook up another 6 meals on Thursday because I'm going to eat 2 of those every day, and I know what they are. I cook the same things over and over again. So I cook twice a week, and I do randomly cook some rice here and there. And I also buy salads. The foods that I eat. So I eat ground beef, I eat chicken breast, I eat protein powder. I guess I drink protein powder, and I use 2 different forms of protein powder. I use a whey protein isolate, because I do have a lactose intolerance. I don't do well with dairy at all. I don't mess with it, but a whey protein isolate gets rid of 99.9% of the lactose. It's about as pure of a whey protein as you're going to get. And I also use collagen protein powder. For my carbohydrates, that's my protein sources. For my carbohydrates, I eat potatoes, rice, popcorn, and Snickers. Although I really do eat that as a carb source. I'll talk about how I work that in. I also eat butter and eggs for fat sources. I don't eat the eggs for the protein. I get a little extra protein with the egg, but I eat it because it's got those 5 grams of delicious fat in there. And also because there's a micronutrient in there called choline, which you need to make sure you're getting enough of that micronutrient. Then I eat salads. So I eat a big salad almost every day, 6-7 days a week. The Snickers bar, I'll tell you how I work those in there. These are all the foods that I eat. I eat salt. I salt my food. I have some seasonings, and I've got a water filter. So that's all the food that I basically eat. Now, I will eat out. I'll eat out on a Saturday, and I'll go into those days and what that's going to look like. So again, I shop and cook twice a week. I prepare 6 meals at a time when I do cook, and that gets me to the next cooking day. So Monday, I'm going to cook 6 meals. I'm going to have 2 a day. That's going to get me to Thursday. I'm going to do that again. And I went over the foods that I ate. My meal plan. So how do I then eat those foods? When do I eat those foods? I won't tell you the times, but I'll tell you basically Monday through Friday. In the morning, I'm going to take one of those meals out. I'm going to do some stuff to it, and I'm going to cook it up with some eggs. And I'm also going to take my supplements at the time, and I'll go over my list of supplements here in a second. Then, so that's breakfast. Then I'm going to go work out, and then I'm going to have a protein shake. Then, a couple hours after that, I'm going to have a salad with chicken and rice. And then after that, 3-4 hours later, I'm going to have another meal, which is the ground beef and the potatoes. Now, I do make some subtle changes in there. Sometimes with the protein shake after the workout, I'll have a Snickers bar. Where's the trombone? Now, that's your impression of a Snickers bar. But my impression of a Snickers bar is not that it's bad for you. Okay, now, if all I ate were Snickers bars, that'd be bad. Let me ask you this. If you're starving to death, you haven't eaten anything in 3 weeks, and you eat a Snickers bar, is it bad for you? What? No, it's not. In fact, it's life-saving at that point. What if I have, a 6-ounce chicken breast, a giant salad, and a Snickers bar? Is a Snickers bar with a salad and chicken bad for you? Is it the same as eating a Snickers bar by itself? Is it the same as eating, 5 Snickers bars a day? No, it's not the same. So we can't just say a Snickers bar is bad. I went over all this in What is Nutrition, but I just wanted to get on my soapbox for half a second. So that's the meal plan Monday through Friday. Now, Saturday is going to be a little different. Saturday, I work out at 10 in the morning. So I'm going to have a protein shake by itself with my supplements. So I'm going to get some amino acids in before I exercise. Helps preserve muscle tissue while you're training. Theoretically, hopefully. After the workout, I have a protein shake, and I always have a Snickers bar after my Saturday workout because I want to get some carbs in and a little bit of fat. That's a hard workout on Saturday. I burned a lot of glycogen, so I do high intensity training. High intensity training is glycolytic dependent, meaning there's a lot of hard muscle contraction, and you need carbohydrate for hard muscle contraction. So I want to have a protein shake, and I'm going to get some carbs in after that so I can kind of get my energy levels back up. Then I eat out on Saturday. It's always almost going to be a big old burger. I used to get the burger and fries, but I found that really hard to digest. It would take like 4 hours to digest all that, and I got tired of it. So now I just do the burger with a little Caesar side salad. And then later in the evening, I'm probably going to have some popcorn, maybe with a little bit of chocolate. That's Saturday. Then Sunday is pretty basic. I have a meal, beef and a potato. I had a salad with chicken, and then I have another meal. And I might also have some popcorn to supplement some carbohydrate because the potatoes don't have a ton of carbs in them. You got to eat a lot of potato to get some carbs. So I use about 50 to 60 grams of carbohydrate in the potato when I eat it. My supplements, I take a multi, I take a liver tablet. I won't get into the details why. This is what I take. I use creatine. I use glutamine. I take lion's mane, which is supposed to help with synaptic development in your brain or growth. And then there's a couple miscellaneous ones that I didn't even think were worth mentioning. Okay, so that's how I eat. Take that for what it's worth. If you got any questions on that, let me know. But I thought that would be somewhat interesting for people to listen to or hear about. Compare it to what you do. All right. So like I said before, there's 3 approaches to nutrition from my perspective. Okay. And the first one is on or off. If you've never tried to control your eating, you need to get your foot in the door somewhere from my perspective. You're talking about changing. One, who knows how long you haven't paid any attention to it. So you've got, if you're 30 or 40, probably not that long, but if you are, then you've got that many years of the habit of not doing it. So you got to work against that. Plus your biology doesn't want you to change what you're eating. And so it is a tough struggle. And I think everybody knows because most people have made some sort of attempt to change their nutrition at some point. And so it's difficult. So what I would recommend for people who have never really kind of wrapped their arms around or tackled that to start with the on or off approach. Pick one of these 3 things to start to, let's call it 2, to start to control and get yourself to say, because it's easy to tell yourself, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. Okay. There's no ambiguity there. You don't have to question, is this the right time? What about the meal timing? Is this the appropriate nutrition? Should it be this many? You have to think about any of that stuff. All you have to say is yes or no to yourself. And you begin to develop some discipline around when your physiology is saying you need to go do something, but your mind, your conscious is saying, man, there's a future me though I want to get to. Okay. And that's what changing your behavior is. There's what you want and there's what you do. And you have to get those things to line up in order to change your behavior. The easiest way, the most effective approach for somebody who has never done that before is to take the on or off approach. And so here's the 2 methods you can do that with. From my perspective, there could be more, but it's a tool to help you start to gain control because it's really not about the diet. There's a million nutrition programs out there, diet programs out there, okay? It's going to sound harsh. The diet isn't the challenge. The diets aren't complicated. We're complicated. How about that? I'll put me into the category because I still try and change things as well. So we are complicated. We want to simplify the process so we can start to get a foothold in this direction of nutrition, okay? So time-restricted eating. That was a lot to get to that. Time-restricted eating. So picking a window of time where, hey, if it's within this window, I eat, and when it gets outside of this window, I do not eat. And it doesn't have to be typical windows. I think 8 hours is a good starting place. You don't really have to worry about changing how much you're eating. You don't have to worry about changing what you're eating. You just change the time that you're eating and get discipline around that. And then you'll be able to build from there once you got it. How long do you need to do that for before you got it? You got to figure that out. But probably longer than you're thinking. Time-restricted eating typically would develop into fasting. Now, I'm not going to recommend anybody do any fasting for like nutrition control. I just don't think it's a good idea. It's a tool, but I don't think it's a good idea to start getting your foot in the door with fasting. But time-restricted eating, I think, is very, very good. Typical windows are 8, 6. And I wouldn't mess with anything outside of that until you really got a good foothold on it. And so the other approach for being on and off is removing foods that you should not be eating, right? So, hey, I drink pop. I have 2, 3, 4 pops every day. I would just go, no more pop. That's what I did back with the fast food when I first started to get in, controlling what I was eating. And, I was, like I said, I was on and I was off and I was on and I was off. And then before I knew it, it had been 15, whatever years since I had any fast food. You just got to start with something. Maybe it's fast food. Maybe it's pop. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe there's something, but you got to stick your foot in the ground and start to make change. And I think either a time restricted eating approach where I'm going to eat in these certain windows, or I'm going to cut this specific food out and start to get some discipline around it. I think that's a great place to start for the on-off. That is a entry-level, beginner-level approach to nutrition. So based on where you are, you're going to have to determine, is that where you should start? All right, drink of water. Okay. Next approach. My computer updated today. Got the Sasquatch or whatever it is. Bunch of trees on my desktop now. Next approach. Controlling your food environment. Okay. This is intermediate level, right? There's 4 major environments where I think you're going to be around food. 1, obviously, is your home. 2 is your workplace. 3 is extended family. And then 4 would be like restaurants, okay? I guess if you're out at the gas station, I'll maybe put that in the restaurant classification. But you've got those 4 environments that you're going to end up in at certain times. Your home's going to be every day, so that's really where the battle begins. And so what you're going to do is, if you're not around it, well, hey, guess what? You can't eat it, right? So, there's nothing in my condo that I'm not going to allow myself to eat. If there was a chocolate cake in the condo, I wouldn't make it 3 days without eating the whole chocolate cake, right? I know that. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to have chocolate cake in the condo. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to control the environment that I'm in, and it doesn't allow me to go eat the things that I know I shouldn't be eating, all right? Or at least I shouldn't be eating regularly. Nothing wrong with chocolate cake. You just don't want to have it every day. Maybe an ounce would be fine. So this is an intermediate approach, because in order to control what's in your home, well, this is putting your foot down. This is getting all the garbage, quote unquote garbage, or all the things you don't want to be eating on a regular basis out of the house, right? This is somebody who's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to control this environment, and I'm going to put the foods in this environment that I want to eat and I know I should be eating and are good for me, all right? So getting the garbage out and bringing the groceries in, right? You're going to control that food environment. You could also control your food environment by saying, I'm going to put these certain foods over in this area, and I'm going to start to discipline myself to not go into that area, the pantry or wherever, right? So instead of having them scattered throughout wherever, they're only in one location, right? That's going to start to control the environment. And outside of that, I think that's what you got for controlling your food environment when you go for at home anyways. Next one will be when you're at work, and I would just take the on-off approach. I do not eat things at work, period. Unless you brought it. You should be bringing your lunch. Eat what you brought, all right? Eat that lunch, but don't eat the other things, right? Because I know what's going on at work. I used to work at Lifetime, and man, there would be punchskis on Fat Tuesday in the break room. And I'd eat them, right? Because why? Oh, there it is, right? And it just smells so good. It's like that fried dough with the sugar on it, man. How you going to say no to that? And so what I had to do, I don't even remember if I did it back then, but you just got to, I think your work, because you can't tell the people to not bring stuff in, right? You don't get to control that environment. So you have to control you in that environment and say, you know what? I don't eat these things at work, okay? That's what you can do for work there. Family. See, family, this is advanced level stuff when you go to the family, right? I don't know what you're going to do about that, because you got, we're going to learn about this next week, but our brains are getting synced up with other brains and they're starting to have influence on us. So, man, when you go home, I don't know what to tell you. You have to figure that battle out. You could try the on-off. You're going to be called the health freak and you're going to offend somebody because you didn't eat their potato casserole or whatever, or, the sweet potatoes with the sugar on them. What else? Somebody's dessert, so, I made this pie. I eat my pie. I don't want to eat your pie. Oh, man, they get offended. I don't know why. All right. Honor off of family, some sort of strategy in place. I'm only going to have one cookie or whatever. You know your family. Figure out what you can do there. In restaurants, the kind of the last environment you'll end up in, the easiest way to do this is to do the same meal every time, all right? So your mindset becomes, when I go out to eat, I have a salad with grilled chicken on it. That's what I eat when I go out. End of story. Bam, there you go. Or, hey, you know what? I have the filet and a potato, right? And I don't let them put all the cheese and the butter and the sour cream up on there. I say, don't bring it. I say, put it on the side. I do something like that. And I mean you, all right? But you need to put a plan together for these different environments, right? So this is intermediate level changing your environment, because if it ain't there, you can't eat it. And I think it's a good approach. I think if you haven't done the on-off approach, you need to start there. But if you're doing that for a long time, maybe it's time to level up, go to the intermediate level, and start to control more environments. Or maybe you could just start with work, right? You don't really change home, but you just start with work. Or you change home, but you let work be what it is. But starting to control one of those environments, and then you'll be able to let that spill over into the others. All right. Third approach, counting macros. Okay, now there's two to this. One is an intermediate level, and the other one is advanced. This is advanced wizardry, man. When you start counting your macros and you're adjusting how many grams of the whatevers that you're getting in, that's some wizardry, because you can control how much weight you lose, how much weight you gain. You get to notice, hey, I have more energy. For a while I was at remember, it was 180 or 200 grams of carbs, and I just got used to that for years. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to 50. And I was like a machine. I wanted to do 2 workouts all of a sudden. Because you think about that. That was, what is that, 50? It's 200 extra calories. But that was a 25% increase in carbohydrate availability in your physiology, my physiology. If it's had less than that for years, it's going to notice that. And I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it. Into the second week, I did a workout from the prior day that I missed as a warm-up. Now, it ended up all crashing down on me because I got COVID and was sick as a dog for 10 days. But anyways, that's what was going on. So I digress. Counting macros, 2 approaches, intermediate level. So there's 2 ways to count macros from my perspective, or get into counting your macros, okay? One is to start tracking. So you download an app, you start tracking how much you're eating, and you look at that, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and then you start looking at the numbers. All right, how many grams of protein am I getting a day? How many grams of carbs am I getting? How many grams of fat am I getting? How many calories am I taking? And you start to familiarize yourself. You start to track. And then what you want to do from there is you want to start to progress yourself forward. So I don't want to recommend, right? Because that's that line where, people are like, he told me to do it. What people have done before, is they have started tracking, and then they observe where they're at, and then they have set a goal for their protein. And what some people have noticed is if you take in enough protein, that your cravings and your drive to just go grab something out of the cupboard or the fridge drop drastically. And what do we know about protein? Proteins, that's what you get in your car, What was that? What was that place called? It wasn't Protunes. It wasn't iTunes either. Man. Anyways, we used to go get the car stereo. Anyways, protein is satiating, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. And the reason is because your physiology wants to meet a specific amount of protein intake per day. And when that protein requirement is met, drive to go find protein is turned off, right? So hunger is an evolutionary mechanism that gets you to go find nutrients in the environment. And one of the most important, if you don't know this, you have 5 hunger responses: protein, carb, fat, calcium, and salt. And most people, including myself, can't derive or can't determine what hunger drive I'm feeling at every given moment, right? But one of the major hunger drives, if not the, based on some studies, and I want to cover the whole book on this thing. This stuff was fascinating. Learned about this like 2 years ago. But one of the fundamental drives of that, or probably the most fundamental drive, is for protein. So if you meet that requirement of how many grams of protein body's looking for in a day, guess what? Your hunger response is going to drop, right? So what people have done with counting their macros is they have started to track. They saw that their protein was at X, maybe 60, 80 grams, and they got it up to a more appropriate level. Let's say if they weighed 180 pounds, they ate 180 grams, and boom, all of a sudden now they start to lose body fat, they start to lose weight because they're not having these hunger issues anymore, these cravings at night. Now, not everybody. It's not the answer for everybody, okay? But plenty of people have gotten a result that way. Track, see where that protein number is, and start to hit the number that you should be hitting. After that, then you want to look at how many grams of carbohydrates and fats am I taking in, and I want to start to modulate those. But do the tracking, do the protein requirement, and then tackle that second, third. And then the other way to count your macros is to start with a number and set the whole plan together around that and do it. So let's go over this super quick. And this is where I might cut a video if people were interested in getting a how-to thing to follow along. So this is the advanced level, by the way. The previous one of counting was intermediate. Setting the advanced level, set from the beginning. So basically, you take your weight and you figure out how many calories you need to eat in a day, and you can go online. There's all kinds of calculators from that. Then you set your macros based on that calorie intake, and you can go online, and there's ways to do that. You could search, how do I set my macros? And you'll get an infinite amount of videos. And then you want to build your meal plan off of those macros. So as an example, I used myself. So my macros are, so what I eat pretty much on a regular basis is I eat 180 grams of protein a day. I eat 80 grams of fat, and I have 250 grams of carbs. And so what I then do is I'm going to have 3 meals in a protein shake. You got to figure out if you have protein shakes or not. But I do basically, I'm going to eat 4 times. And so I take those numbers, I divide them by 4, and that tells me how much I need to eat at each meal. And then I built my plan from there, right? Like, okay, then you would have to decide, do I want to do chicken? Do I want to do beef? Do I want to do chicken thighs? Do I want to do pork? Where do I want to get my protein sources from? Where do I get my carb sources from? Then you're going to prepare those meals to meet those macros. So again, if your macros were 180 grams of protein, you're going to divide that by 4. It's going to put you at 35 grams of protein per meal. If your macros were 80 grams of fat, you're going to divide that by 4. That's going to be 20, and that's going to be in a meal. And then you're going to divide your carbohydrate intake by 4 and put that into meal. If you want to have 6 meals, you divide by 6. Now you know what your meals need to look like for each day, and then you cook and prepare and put those things together. So I do 3 meals in a shake pretty much every day. And that's how you do that. You need to plan when you're going to cook. You need to plan when you're going to grocery shop. You need to then go when you plan. You need to buy the things that are on your list that you planned. You need to cook the foods that you planned. You need to weigh them out into meals. You need to plan when you're going to eat them, and then you got to eat them. And I'm thinking about changing that format a little bit and putting it into instructional videos I've mentioned 9 times already. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. Some final thoughts. These are the exact same final thoughts. I realized whether it was new fitness, exercise, or nutrition, it's the same thing. Like, decide who you want to be. Start somewhere and then stay consistent. It is no more complicated than that. People don't take action when they don't understand what to do. If you want to be a healthy person, you want to be somebody who takes care of their body, you want to be that person that you see out there, and you're something inside you is telling you this is what you should be doing, then they only do 2 things. They exercise 4+ days a week, 4 or more, and they cook and prepare and eat their own foods, okay? 2 things. Figure out where you are. If you already got the exercise down and you're ready to tackle nutrition, then you can go back through this podcast and figure out where you want to start on there, okay? If you still need to get the exercise going, then, start, hey, I'm going to walk 4 days a week. Pick some sort of plan and start executing it, and then stay consistent. You're going to mess up. Boom, you got a new week. No worries. Don't beat yourself up. Don't get into the cycle of calling yourself names and saying what's wrong with you all the time, because that doesn't help anything, okay? Just go, yeah, I'm human. Messed up. All right, start again. Yeah, I'm human. Human. I messed up. Let's start again. That's the process. I've never had it go any other way in my entire life, okay? It's just, I kept working on it until I got it, until it became part of what I was doing. Next episode, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I posted on social media about a book I was reading, got a strong interest in me going through it, and that is what I'm going to do. A book called The Development of the Subconscious. It's written by Alan Shore, and it is deep, man. And we're going to cover some stuff that is, I got my mind blown. I already finished the book. I'm into the second book, which talks about how to apply this stuff. But it's not what I thought. I thought it was going to be about how to develop your subconscious. Nope. It is about subconscious develops from birth, even in the womb. I'm telling you, it's mind-blowing. So we're gonna get into that as much as we can, and then hopefully I'll just probably cover that one podcast, and then so anyways, that'll be next podcast. All right, guys, that's it for today. Another one done, number 19, and help us grow. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Tell your friends. Share the shorts, and we're gonna keep this thing going. All right, guys, we will talk to you next week about the subconscious.